Hi everyone, my name is Kristy Coromandel and I'm an independent 7-Up demonstrator here in Central Queensland, Australia. This month we're talking about trying a new technique, and each week we're going to focus on a different technique. So this week let's look at the ink blending technique. I'm going to show you briefly how to do that, and then we'll create a fun project together, and I've also got a few samples at the end to share with you also. So let's flip the camera around and let's get started. Okay, so let's look at some of the tools that we have available for ink blending. So we have our sponge daubers that has this little sponge section on the top here, and these are designed to fit on your finger. Now these are great for maybe adding ink to your die cut pieces or just a small area on your work surface itself. And then we have these blending brushes. They come in the large and the small, and the bristles are very soft to touch. And the large one is great for creating ink backgrounds, or you want to blend that nice background, so you want a bigger area, so that's really great. And then the small one you can also use for die cutting pieces, or you can use it for smaller areas on your background or on your front piece of your cardstock, for etc. Now a couple of caring tips for you as well. You'll notice that as you do use your brushes, that they may go a little bit stiff. So this is usually caused by some ink buildup that hasn't been cleaned off, or it could be that you have, while the ink is still wet, you've laid your on the downwards, so it's not actually up. So it's best to store them facing up or in the upright in a little glass jar or something as well. You also want to be able to wipe off the excess ink after you do use it. So I do recommend getting yourself a little microfiber cloth, and then you can just simply rub it and get off that excess ink that you might have from after you've done your little work project as well. The other thing too is maybe once a week you want to actually just check your brushes, making sure they're still nice and soft. If they are getting a little bit hard, it might be time for you to actually clean them up, and you can do that simply with some water and some dish soap. And you just want to gently rub it around to try and get that excess ink off. And you won't get the staining out at all, it will still be stained, but at least it will be clean. So you want to make sure you get all that ink out of there, and then you want to pat that dry and get all that excess moisture out, and then let that to dry. And then it should go back to this nice soft filling bristles. Now if by any chance that does not happen, it might be time for you to actually change them out and replace them. So it doesn't happen often. I think I've only ever replaced mine once, and I've had them a long time, and I do use them very frequently. And you can always then use these old brushes for something else. You can use it for your mixed media art, you can use it for whatever else if it's not going to work now for blending. So there's a couple of little tips for you in what we can use them for and how to care for them. So let me share with you a couple of ways that we can actually ink blend with these products. So I'm going to start with my sponge dauber here, and I do have a little die cut piece, and I am going to use the same color ink that my die cut piece is. So this is Petuna Pop, and I've got my sponge dauber. I'm just applying some ink to it, and I'm simply just going to rub a little bit, obviously, onto my scrap piece of paper here, and I'm simply in a circular motion going to go around the edges. I don't want to get ink on my fingers, so I'm just grabbing another tool to kind of hold it in place. So just simply around in a circular motion, and apply as much or as little ink as I like to that petal. So you can see how that looks very different to what a petal looks like that hasn't been ink blended. And so it kind of just adds that extra layer of texture as well, and a little bit more depth, and makes it very simple. A simple little thing that you can do to enhance your die cuts a little bit better. So that's what's great for our sponge daubers. Now using your blending brushes, there are a couple of different techniques that we can do here. Now I'm going to use my larger one here. I've got some Misty Moonlight, and we can simply create a gradient effect. So this is like going from a dark to a light shade. And so I recommend, and we're going to work in a circular motion, so I like to hold mine around the handle and then hold it on the top or easily around the sides here, whatever works better. And in a circular motion, I simply apply that colour, and you'll notice that that just blends really so nicely. Just quickly going to grab a tissue so I don't get ink on my fingers. Then I can apply some extra ink. Now, if I want gradient, I'm going to start dark down here, and I'm going to gradually get lighter. So I can make sure I get some more ink. And then if I turn this around, so you can see how easy that was to add that ink and gradually go darker to go lighter, and I can keep adding more and more ink to that till I get the consistency or the depth of colour that I want as well. So that's one way to create a fun background, is using a monochromatic where we go from dark to light. Now another thing we can do is we can ink blend some colours together. So I've simply got another piece here, and this is one of my favourite colour combinations, is Mellow Mumbo, Pumpkin Pie and Crushed Curry. And I do recommend you start with the lightest colour first. So I'm going to start with my Crushed Curry, and I actually have just a small blending brush here. Once again, we're going to start off the cardstock and in a circular motion, and that way it gets rid of all those harsh lines that are there. And then I'm going to gradually come onto my cardstock. Now I'm only going to do a third because we've got 3 colours right here. All right, and then we can add our next colour, which is Pumpkin Pie. And because I can't start off, I'm actually going to start on the side here, gradually blend it in. And then I'm simply going to blend that down into where my Crushed Curry is to blend those 2 colours together. And then I can always come back in with my Crushed Curry and go over that to blend that a bit more if I wish as well. And then our final colour is our Melon Mumbo. Once again, we're going to start off and then blend that in together. Okay, and you can see how nicely all of those colours then blend into each other, create another little fun background. So let's go ahead and let's create a fun project together. So let me put all this aside. And the product that I'm going to be using today is called Label Me Grateful. And I believe this came out in the last online exclusive. So this would have been September online exclusives. Everything's all stuck. Here's the rest of it. Okay, so we can see here that we have all of these little bits and pieces, and we also have this die here as well that goes along with it. And this is great because it goes around all of our greetings here as well. So let's create a little fun project. Now I do have all the pieces already cut for us, but we do have this fun little piece of paper. I can't even remember what it's called, but it's actually already got some embossing on there already. So what I want to do is I want to highlight around the background itself. So I'm going to grab my blending brush and my ink, which is my Pool Party ink. I'm going to apply some ink. Just get rid of that excess right there to begin with, and then I'm going to go straight around the center of this. Remembering I can make this as dark or as light as I wish, but it's easier for you to add extra color to it. So gradually add the color, and then you can add more color because it's really hard, impossible really, to take color away. So I think that should do it. You can always grab a little sponge, a tissue here, and that emboss actually pops up even more. So next, got ink on my fingers now. We're going to stamp our greeting. And I had a piece of cardstock and I can't find it anymore. Oh, here it is. Here's our cardstock. So let's stamp our greeting. I'm going to stamp this in Secret C. I'm going to find my ink pad. And then we can obviously die cut that out with our thing like this, but I've already gone ahead and I have done that ahead of time. So here's my little greeting. So this really is just going to go over here, and that blue is actually going to highlight or pop out from the sides. I'm just going to add a little bit more blue to make that pop a little bit more. Now that I have my green, I can see how far I want to extend that shading or that sponging. Ink blending. Just want to make sure that pops really nicely. Okay, that should do it. And then I've gone ahead of time and I've already die cut all of our flowers and everything as well from the die set. So let's go ahead and let's start adhering here. So I'm going to adhere our embossed white paper. I can't even remember what this is called. And my glue doesn't want to work. And I do have some Pool Party here as well to match obviously our blending that we did. Sorry, I dropped my dimensionals on the floor. I have my card base here, which is out of thick white cardstock. So I'm just going to attach this piece directly to this. So there's our little card. So now let's add everything onto the front here. So I'm going to pop my green up with some dimensionals. Center that. And then let's add our little flowers. So I do have my leaf here. It's probably a bit big, so I'm just going to trim it down a bit, and I'll just add a little bit of glue. It's my fresh freesia flower. My leaves are out of soft sea foam, and here's my leaves. Going to tuck them in the back here. And then I've got lemon lolly and petal pink for my flowers. Now I could have added some extra dimension to these, and I could have sponged them, used my sponge daubers and sponged some ink on them. But I decided not to do that today. And then we can simply add some embellishments to it. I've got some rainbow dots here. I'm going to use the Pool Party ones. Slide that one under there. I might get another big one, yeah. So there we go. There is our quick and easy simple card that we have just created. And what we've done is we obviously sponged the background. So here's another one that I did earlier. And this is using our Strawberry Slush, Timid Tiger and Darling Duckling. So those are from our in colours, along with Granny Apple Green for my leaves. But I've kept the blue. So I thought that was pretty cool. Then another one here featuring, I've sponged the three colours in the middle here. And then I've put that through my embossing folder. So I think this is Floaty Flamingo, Daffodil Delight and Coastal Cabana. And then this one here, all I've done is I've added a sponge here around the background, and then I've stamped over the top of it so that my flowers kind of pop off and feel like they're floating. Make sure I get all that in the camera. And then this one here, I've done the emboss resist technique. So I've stamped my flowers in Versamark, and then I've heat embossed that in white, and then I've sponged over the top of that and I've rubbed it similar to what I did on these ones here, and so that made that kind of a pop here. And there's a video tutorial for this inside the Charming Days online class. If you go check that out, you'll have the video tutorial for this as well. So there's a couple of examples. So thanks so much for joining me, and we'll catch you next time.